Now, last time we spoke about, even though it wasn't the main topic of the show, we spoke about that awful situation that happened in Tangshan, where those thugs basically tried to, they put some advances on, this one guy put some advances on some women in a restaurant, and they didn't reciprocate, and so him and his buddies ended up beating the women up in a savage, terrible manner, and it's really started a big discussion around China about domestic abuse and about the attitudes towards women and women's rights and things like that. And unfortunately, as a result, or fortunately, a lot of new videos are coming to light, surfacing of terrible beatings and horrible things happening, which just proves how terrible the situation is for women in China. But what we're talking about now, that I'm going to show you now, is the response to that beating at the barbecue restaurant. What happened after this beating and it went viral and all that?
In typical China fashion, they have an overreach campaign. And basically what that means is to show the public and to make sure the state media is there to report on it, they will do the craziest things just to say, look, we've taken care of it, don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So although this is a prolific thing that happens all over China for many, many years now, we've seen it happen multiple times.
We've personally
seen it in real life. We've seen probably 100 plus videos at this point of this kind of thing happening. But there's never really a response unless something gets too embarrassing. This Tangshan thing was hugely embarrassing for China because the Chinese government is always saying, they actually put out this ridiculous campaign they involved me in. They used me and my wife for propaganda to say, my wife is going to divorce me because America's too scary to go out at night and she just wants to go out and get barbecue. But she can't do that at 2 a.m., right? Sure. Because she'll go get beat up and set on fire. But in China, you can do that. And that campaign actually, that whole like, you can't go out at 2 a.m. to get barbecue, got clowned on by Chinese netizens, and they're like, what are you talking about? And they kept playing that clip over and over again at the barbecue, right? So anyway, they over-respond. They overreach. They put cops out there, SWAT team, all this kind of stuff to be like, look, now the barbecues are safe, as if the barbecue is the problem.
Yeah, of course.
Not the systemic, horrible problem in society caused by the Chinese government covering up abuse all the time. It's not that. It's barbecue is the problem. So we're out there to send SWAT team out there and make sure everyone's okay.
I've seen footage of they've got police with bullhorns shouting right above people that are having barbecue about stay safe, no fighting allowed, that kind of thing. And they're patrolling around. Yeah. We all know this is unsustainable. They'll do this for a week or two to kind of just raise awareness and get the film crews in, and then it'll go back to normal. You know, the thing is, I've made several videos about the difficulty when it comes to women's rights in China. It's awful. I mean, for instance, even if you're in a terrible abusive relationship, you're not allowed to have a divorce. They give you that 1 month cool down period. Yeah. So let's say, I mean, imagine you're being horribly beaten up and like almost murdered by your husband. You go to the cops and you're like, I need a divorce. They'll be like, you're not allowed to get divorced. First, you have to go through a 1 month cool down period. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that's going to make the beatings less?
The guy's going to go home. You know what he's going to do? He's going to be like, you know what? They told me to cool down. That's what I'm going to do. And he makes an ice bath. He chills out. He thinks about his problems. And he's like, I'm in the wrong here. That's what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, without getting too much into that, it is a huge problem. I'm glad there's a spotlight on it at the moment. I hope the spotlight continues to stay on it. It's an awful thing to think about. It's an awful thing to talk about. But let's just hope.
No, it's awful. But I do want to say that there's been a very interesting response in China to it. And there's been some memes that come out of it, and it's not to clown on the victims. It's to actually clown on the perpetrators. First off, do you remember the perpetrator?
One of them, his friend.
Yeah, his friend.
The guy with the black T-shirt. He was wearing the Boy London. Boy London. Is that what it is?
So anyway, listen. Here's the deal. There are perpetrators, basically, if you're new to this whole situation, they beat up some women.
Some helpless women. And nobody stepped in to help, and it was brutal. It was terrible.
Yeah. One of the guys, typical thug attire. We're going to do a special on what Chinese thug attire is.
Yes, we did the Laoban attire. We're going to do
It was wildly popular, too. We're going to do thug attire. So anyway, he's wearing a Boy London shirt. And if you guys want to Google Boy London, it's this brand that has this almost like eagle-looking thing.
Kind of like a Nazi eagle, let's be honest.
Kind of looks pretty Nazi.
It looks like the Nazi
But I don't want to get Boy London upset.
Sure, I'm just saying
it probably
looks
has
like
some other significance. Anyway.
Of course, I mean, that eagle's used in many, like the Romans used it, okay? Of course, because it's very similar looking.
Sure.
Okay.
Anyway, very popular brand in China.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they changed it to Bad Boy instead of Boy London. Yeah. Because he was like a bad guy, right? It's got like play on words. But anyway, next up we have a barbecue scene here.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing I got to say is Boy of London actually wrote like an apology letter or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
Boy London, to say that they don't approve of violence.
Well, you kind of have to do that to clear your name, just because people will attribute that.
You think so?
I mean, I don't think you have to.
So if someone's wearing a Calvin Klein T-shirt, all of a sudden Calvin Klein has to say, "Oh."
I don't think it's necessary. I think it's smart.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's it's also brand awareness. You can be like, listen, we don't appreciate that.
Right.
You know, we stand on the side of good, blah, blah. Anyway, this is a typical Chinese thug look, by the way.
Yeah, this is the thug
and
look.
He's got the Boy London shirt on and the gold chain. It's the,
Yeah, whatever. The gold chain is key. We'll get into this. We'll do it properly. But...
Or the beads.
Yeah.
The wooden
beads. The sort of prayer beads.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so he's eating dinner at a barbecue restaurant. The guy looks down and he looks at the wanted poster. And it's the Boy London guy, and he's like,
is this
guy matches the description, so he gives him some meat. He's shaking, he's so scared. He's like, and the guy's like, all right.
That's pretty hilarious. First time I'm seeing these.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Then this is not a meme. This is legit what they're doing in China, because
going to barbecue restaurants.
They're walking around in a barbecue restaurant with weapons.
Yes,
the SWAT team
and riot shields and whatnot.
Shields, so anyway,
yeah,
I just wanted to fill you guys in that this was well discussed, and the problem is because China tried to. Well, at first they always try to like downplay this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then they try to overreact. Right. So what's happened instead is people are digging up all the instances that this didn't get covered.
Yeah.
Because this happens so I can't. I'm not just saying this.
Yeah.
If you used to turn on WeChat and go into your group, whatever groups you're in, especially if there was guys in there.
Yeah.
They would share these videos and nobody's promoting it. No one's like, hell yeah. Everyone's like, this is terrible. But they share these things.
Yeah, this is effed up. And
this is effed up. And
this happened like in the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah. And sometimes it'd be local.
Yeah, remember we saw that one of the guys getting stabbed at the barbecue thing? And we're like, holy crap, that's just down the road from us.
Yeah.
You have to understand that it's an awful part of, sort of Chinese society is this kind of thuggish, beat people up culture that happens at barbecue restaurants when people get drunk. It does happen.
Yeah.
And the problem is, this image of China being incredibly safe is, number one, it's a priority for the Chinese government to have that image out there. Yeah. And it's maintained by just simply not letting people see the bad news. That's how it works. I've explained this before. If, for instance, we had not seen that video that was shared on WeChat of the guys getting stabbed at that barbecue restaurant that we'd been to ourselves in Huizhou around the corner.
Just the day before.
Yeah. If we had not seen that video, we wouldn't know.
We wouldn't know. How would you know? There's not going to be posters up.
No, it's not in the news. No one's talking about it. So you'd be like, I live in the safest place in the world because you didn't know that somebody was stabbed. I don't know if they died or not, but the fact of the matter is people were stabbed.
You know what another good analogy is?
What?
The hospital next to my house where the 8 nurses got stabbed.
And we saw the blood.
We saw the blood, but was it reported?
Nope.
Absolutely not. It was scrubbed immediately.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
So, I mean, that's the awful reality about this whole veneer or this whole facade of safety in China, is that it appears incredibly safe. And the average traveler who goes there will attest that it's a safe place. I will also say that it's a pretty safe place. I mean, look,
So are most places if you just show up for a little while.
Yeah, and if you don't look for trouble. Let's put it that way. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, in other parts of the world, especially in places like America, when there is something that happens that's terrible,
there's a light on it.
Everybody knows about it. Not just in America, but the whole world.
Yeah.
So everyone's hyper-focused on these bad instances that happen around America or the UK or whatever the case may be, the knife violence or the gun violence, and everyone's like, oh, wow, it's so dangerous there. And people are saying, but it's so safe in China. But that's only because there's no focus on the terrible things that are happening.
And I think one very, very important thing, and I'd love to just do a proper expose on this.
By the way, you
got to understand.
You got to understand China.
I do.
Yeah.
I want to do a proper expose on this at some point about how, and I think I will, with a very strange analogy that I've been planning.
Okay.
But how you can't even look at rudimentary statistics from China.
Yeah.
Because if you go off of record and you said, okay, I'm going to use China's public records to say, oh, it's very safe statistically, they're not real.
No.
Do you understand? So when there's stuff recorded, 90% of the time it's scrubbed from the internet. It's scrubbed from public consciousness. So you wouldn't, like you said, you had a good point. You wouldn't know if you didn't see it, right? No. Do you think somehow that stuff is being recorded officially and then given to other countries as data? Absolutely not. Right?
That's why we're lucky that this particular instance went viral. Okay? Because if it goes viral like that, before the censors can scrub it, it starts to get attention. People start to talk about it. And as you can see, there is some inkling of change, like the idea of them sending armed people to walk around the barbecue restaurants. We know that it's not permanent. We know that it's just a big show that'll be there for a couple of weeks and then disappear and everything will go back to normal.
Know.
But at least there's a little bit of change, a little bit of effort. And so that's
consciousness.
Why it's important for the bad, darker parts of Chinese society to be discussed and shown.
That's how it can change.
Yeah, that's how you change it. Anyway.